My brother-in-law tried to steal my house, and I broke the news to my husband in the most savage way possible. Story time. I inherited a holiday home from my grandma a couple of years ago. I never really get around to using it because it's about 6 hours away, and that is just effort. But I always keep the keys on the rack just next to the door where all of our other keys are. Since I'm literally never there, I got a little security system installed, so whenever someone's on the property, I get the notification. So my boyfriend's brother, who we'll call Steve, recently had his 4th child. And Steve and his wife Amy currently live in a really small apartment. But 3 days ago, they both came over to mine and my husband's house with all of their 4 children. So we're all having a really fun night. It's really, really nice. And then Steve all of a sudden just mentioned about my holiday home. It's like, yeah, your holiday home would be more than enough room for me and Amy to raise all of our kids. Subtle, Steve. Nice and subtle. He then goes on to mention about how I'm literally never there. I obviously knew what he was trying to get at here. I wasn't having any of it. So my exact response to it was, yeah, but you're not going to be living there, are you, Steve? Steve went silent. After this, Amy started gathering all of her kids and all of their belongings, and it was literally 5 minutes later they left. My husband hasn't said a single word to me about the conversation, and that night I did feel a little bit bad about my response because I know that they need the space. So fast forward to yesterday. I wake up for work and I realise that my husband isn't in bed next to me, but I wasn't thinking too much of it. So as I'm about to walk out the door to go to work, I go to the key rack and go to grab my car keys, and I realise that my holiday home keys aren't there. I text my husband and I'm like, hello, where are my keys? And he's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I accidentally took them when I was in a rush this morning. And I sighed a sigh of relief. I very distinctly remember telling this man not to lose my keys and to bring them back when he finishes work. So I just assumed, stupidly, that everything would be fine, and I went to work. So I'm sat at my desk, and then midday, I got a notification from my phone. It was alerting me to the fact that someone was on the property at my holiday home. I have never opened an app so quick in my whole life. But alas, I was not prepared for who I'd see. It was my boyfriend and Steve's family with a key and a moving van in the background. I was seething. I got home from work that day and who was sat on my sofa but my stupid husband. He's acting like nothing has happened. I lost my shit. I was screaming at him, asking him why he thought it was okay to move his family into my house when I'd already said no. This man tried so hard to justify his actions. He said that he had a responsibility to protect his family, which made me even more angry because what about me? I told him instantly that we were over and he had 1 day to get his brother and his family out of my home. I told him if they weren't out within 24 hours, I was calling the police and they would have to remove them. And my husband said that he wasn't going to do that. He then told me to calm down. So I then packed my bags and went to a hotel for the night because I was not staying around this little snake. The next day, I checked the cameras, and of course, who's at my house? Bloody Steve. And I, with no shame, called the police and told them that there were trespassers on my property and that they needed to be escorted off. Fast forward a day later. I go on the cameras for my house, and I see a police car out the front. I got the popcorn ready. The next thing I see is the police escorting Steve and his wife out of the house in handcuffs. So just to piss him off a little bit, I took a screenshot of all of his family in handcuffs from the little security camera. And I sent it directly to my husband with a little text that said, thanks for telling them to leave. Really appreciate it, babe. And I signed it off with a little heart. So am I the arsehole here?
I, 30 female, stepmother 45 female, wore white to my wedding on purpose. Am I right to cut her out? My parents divorced when I was 13. My mother, 55 female, found out that my father, 57 male, was cheating on her with my now stepmother, Sarah, 45 female. My mom was heartbroken by this, and so was I. I saw him after their divorce, but only when I was forced to. Weekends, some holidays. I was very angry with him the entire time and actually refused to speak to him for about 6 months. When I was 15, he married Sarah. I didn't want to go to the wedding, but my mom and dad insisted I go. Because of that, and because I was an angry, spiteful, and rude teenager, I decided that I'd do something to ruin the wedding. I know, as an adult, this was a horrible thing to do. I wore a blue dress to the wedding, but under it, I'd hidden a white dress. I went to the wedding with my dad and younger brother, Sam, 25, in my grandfather's car, and when we got to the church, I pretended I had to nip back to the car. I went outside, took the blue dress off, and came back in a white dress. Both my dad's family and the bride's family were furious, but they obviously couldn't kick a 15-year-old out of a wedding, so they just carried on and got married, but it clearly spoiled it. Even in the photos outside of the church, Sarah looks pissed off. Sarah's family wanted to kick me out, but my dad held it together and told them to ignore it. This seemed to be going okay until the videographer asked me to say something on camera, and I said, let's hope this one lasts. At that point, my dad called a taxi and had it take me home. He stopped insisting I visit him, and I didn't see him for a good few years. My father and I rekindled our relationship when I was in my early 20s. I had a health scare and we reconnected over that. We've been on good terms since then, although Sarah has never forgiven me, even though I've apologized to her multiple times. Real apologies too. I do feel very bad about what I did to her. It wasn't fair and I'm sorry. A month ago, my husband and I got married. I noticed during the ceremony that Sarah was wearing a white bridal style, not exactly wedding dress, but similar dress. When I caught her eye, she was smirking at me. I didn't let it affect anything and just carried on with the wedding. We still had a great time, and I think aside from my immediate family who got the reference, everyone else just thought she was a bit strange. Later on, when we were reading the guest book, I saw that she had written in exactly what I said to her 15 years ago. After both of these incidents, I spoke to my husband and told him that I didn't want her in my life anymore. That I thought if we had children, she'd be a toxic influence in their lives, and I think I would prefer to cut her out. He agreed if that's what I wanted. I told my dad that he's always welcome to visit us, but that I'll no longer be having contact with his wife. My dad basically said it's both of us or neither of us, and my mom also thinks I should reconsider for the sake of keeping the peace. Am I overstepping the mark by going no contact?
Tell you about the event that I attended last night in LA, which was the worst experience I have had thus far. Here's the thing, every event that I've gone to, there's been of course little hiccups, human error, people get sassy, who cares? You forgive, you move on, and you still have a great time. But the injustice that happened last night, justice, that's what I'm hung up on. I got invited to an artist's song release party in Hollywood. I was personally promised from his manager and the host of the night that I was given a +1, we were gonna have VIP access, there was gonna be a little red carpet before the opening act came on stage, and then the main act. The invitation was credible, we confirmed me and my +1 slot for the event. The day of the event arrives, me and my +1, I brought Megan with me. You guys know Megan. Her and I drive 3.5 hours to Hollywood because we want to support this new artist. We get into the VIP line outside the venue. We're all looking at our clocks like, we were supposed to be let in 30 minutes ago and the show's supposed to start in 15, but we're not even doing the carpet yet. We're not doing press. What's going on? A lot of people in line were already getting a little sassy, but you know, it's the beginning of the night. You don't want that to wreck it, and it's LA. Most things run late. So I was like, okay, well, it's gonna be fun when we get in. Let's just get in. Megan and I finally make it through security and everything, and then we get to the front where we hand the girl our little barcode on our phone for her to scan. She scans mine, it goes through just fine, hands me a lanyard to wear for credentials, but then when she scans Megan, it says invalid. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's just a glitch. Like, the manager is literally walking around. He's the one that gave me the invitation. Like, literally no big deal. We'll just get this cleared up. Easy, fine. So the two girls working the front little booth, they just asked us to like step to the side so other people who get their barcodes accepted will walk the red carpet. I could have walked the carpet, but I was like, no, I'm gonna wait for Megan. As we're stepping to the side, we start noticing that like other influencers and their +1s and like people in the VIP area, random people, their barcodes start getting invalid. So the group of invalid QR codes starts getting bigger. Like, it was just Megan and I, and now it's like Megan, me, this girl Ashley, her friend Sophie. One of the guy friends that we made in line, his name was Jordan, and he also like randomly got an invalid barcode, so he was in our little group to the side, and he flew from Wisconsin just for this one event. He also got personally invited by the event manager, whom we are going to name Matthew. So now it's this big group of people, and we're all waiting for Matthew because we're all like, he personally invited us. All he has to do is like look at us or see our name and be like, oh yeah, I invited you. It's okay. Like, sorry, it's just a computer glitch. Let him on through. We finally grab Matthew. I start explaining to him. I'm like advocating for the whole group. I'm like, hi, I'm Danny. Arab, you talk to me and my team. All of us are showing up that we have invalid barcodes, but like, we have emails back and forth from you. Like, this just isn't like a big deal. Just, you know, let us on through. I am trying to be as kind, as graceful, as forgiving as I can. And Matthew looks at me and he was like, we're at capacity. Nothing I can do for you. Time for you to leave the facility. Wait. How are you at capacity if you personally emailed me and all of these people and gave us VIP barcodes? Is this like a bait and switch? And Jordan next to me starts getting so upset. He's the one that flew from Wisconsin. I'm like, hold on, Jordan. Hold on. I got you. I'm going to vouch for everybody in this group. We're gonna get in. Like, this kind of isn't cool. So I start talking to the girls again at the front booth being like, this is just one big misunderstanding. But these girls were not letting up. They were like, sorry, whatever Matthew says goes. Ooh. So then I grab Matthew again. Homeboy is not happy to see me because I'm not letting go. I'm talking to him and I'm like, hey, again, so sorry, but like we have our barcodes, we have your email address personally inviting us. What is going on? And proceeds to tell me that because they had hit capacity, they just literally went into their computer and just started canceling people. And was like, too bad, so sad, go home. After he says that whole spiel to me and the group and gallivants away, he pulls influencers from the line without even being scanned by QR codes, brings them to the red carpet, and I overhear the two girls at the booth saying that 100 people who RSVP'd for VIP didn't show up, and their arms are full of all of the extra lanyards. And yet they want us to leave the facility. You guys, this rarely happens, but I was pissed. I turn to my super tight friend group now because we were all invalid barcodes and we've all bonded over this traumatic experience of this man yelling at us. It's not like we were doing something illegal. He invited us. This is not our mistake. I'm so sorry you hit capacity and I'm so sorry you have all these 100 extra lanyards. What? It makes no sense. First of all, the man was lying to us. Like, full out lying because, yeah, 100 people didn't show up. You should have space. I'm the only one with the VIP lanyard. I'm the only one where my QR code actually worked, but I'm not gonna leave this. Like, you're joking. And I say, you guys, we are going to get in one way or another. I'm not gonna go in alone. Like, it's either we all just bail or we all get in. We're all talking, we're trying to make a better game plan. And that's when we decided to approach this from a different angle. So everybody around me who has invalid QR codes, we start thinking of a different plan where it's like, well, we could just go into general admission because it was free for general admission and then try to speak to someone there. But then we all ended up deciding, you know, is this something to truly fight for, to be in a group of people who A, have treated us so disrespectfully, and like, do we even want to be associated with the VIP crowd? Me and everybody with, again, the invalid QR codes, we then decide to just walk into the general admission because the way that the venue was set up was the bottom level was general and then the balcony on the top was for VIP. So we actually walked in and got like super close to the stage, which was great. While we're standing in general admission, might I add that we see Matthew running around the venue like a chicken with his head cut off, and he's hitting his vape inside the venue, outside the venue, being just extremely unprofessional. But we stayed near the stage, we watched the performers, but something that we didn't anticipate was one of the performers was in a fraternity. So his entire fraternity and all of the frat brothers came, and we had so many drinks in the audience spilled on us. Like on my arm, on my leg. I got one spilled on my right ear. I still feel like I still have a vodka soda in there. Everybody in the crowd was just incredibly disrespectful and rude, started mosh pits, just like, really, you guys, really? That's when Megan and I were done. We said bye to all of our brand new best friends that we made, all the invalid QR codes. That's what our group chat name was gonna be. And when we finally left the event, we did some digging on the name of the manager who hosted it, who yelled at us and told us to leave, even though he emailed us. And this man, you guys, you're not even ready. You're not even ready. I wasn't even ready. After doing a deep dive into his past, this man ran TanaCon. If you don't know what TanaCon is, just a giant convention surrounded by Tana Mojo. She was trying to do something good for her fans, but unfortunately this man who was in charge of it had all of her fans wait in the hot LA sun for like 5.5 hours. They finally got into the event, didn't even see that much of Tana. It was a complete crazy, terrible thing, which I do not blame Tana at all. She tried to do something good for her fans. Who I blame is Matthew, who I met last night. I no longer will even consider, even entertain the idea of going to an event hosted by this man. And unfortunately, I really don't even want to promote this new artist because if this is his manager, that something's not adding up. I had so much content planned to share with you guys about last night. I was so looking forward to it. And as much as I want to post it, I just can't support who's behind it. And I'll just finish with this. The guy, Matthew, who we had a run-in with last night, I just hope that he can be nicer to human beings. And I hope that he learns. Unfortunately, there was many similarities between TanaCon and what happened last night. So homeboy hasn't learned yet, but I hope he can. Needless to say, I will not be supporting anything that this man does. I will not be supporting people that he works with. And I am choosing to separate myself from that and only put good people into my life. Woo! Thanks for listening to my story time. That is what happened.
Am I the Astronaut? Asked my wife to help with the kids. My wife, Lisa, and I, both 30s, have 3 kids under 5. I work full-time while Lisa is a stay-at-home mom with an Etsy shop where she makes and sells jewelry as our supplemental income. A while back, I received a nice bonus, and after a bit of discussion, it was decided I'd use my bonus for myself. I managed to stay within budget, but I booked myself a 2-week vacation to Hawaii. Of course, this meant Lisa had the kids at home full-time while I was gone. When I returned, Lisa was exhausted, and I initially agreed to take the kids for the afternoon on Saturday so she could have some time to herself and unwind. Oh, wait, okay. My cousin ended up inviting us to a barbecue the same day, and my cousin is one of my best friends, and I knew other childhood friends would be there. Lisa wasn't sure about going, but I told her everyone would be happy to see her and the kids, plus I'd watch them so she could relax and have a drink or two. The day of the barbecue, the kids were out of control, crying, screaming, fighting, not listening or following directions. It was impossible to have a conversation or catch up with my cousin or friends. I repeatedly walked over to Lisa to ask her to give me a hand with the kids. Each time she declined and said I agreed to watch them, and this is her downtime. After another hour of chaos, I ended up yelling across the yard, "For once, can you please get off of your effing ass and help me with our kids?" Like once is all I'm asking for. Lisa stomped over to me and started whisper yelling that I was breaking my promise to let her have time to relax. She didn't want to be here and feels like I basically made her go. I tried explaining that these are people I don't see very often and to please not make a scene. Unfortunately, a few people overheard us and we caught a few comments about Lisa being a lazy mom who only wanted to pawn off the kids on me / she's taking advantage of me. Lisa burst into tears and yelled at the people standing nearby that made the comments for them to all go to hell. Told me basically to go myself, took the car and left. She returned a few hours later to pick me up and the kids. We didn't speak to each other on the drive home. Later that night, I tried talking to her that the kids were having a rough day and I just needed her help for a bit so I could finish a few conversations and I would have taken them right back. Lisa objected that wasn't fair and she had the kids all alone for 2 weeks while I was in Hawaii. She also said that's not what upset her the most. It was how I phrased what I said and how I let people insult her and didn't immediately jump to her defense. I told Lisa those people don't know her like I do and have no idea how hard she works to take care of the kids, our house, and run her Etsy shop, nor did I have time to react before she ended up leaving. Am I the asshole?
I withdrew wife privileges from my boyfriend because he won't propose. I, 29 female, and my boyfriend, 31 male, have been together for 7 years now. I had voiced that I wanted to be engaged before the 4-year mark. He agreed at the time. When we were half a year from reaching our 4th anniversary, I had revisited the topic of marriage and told him that I was expecting to get married. He was finishing up his master's program at the time and said that he wanted to get out of the student debt and get his finances in order. I bit my tongue and understood that we were partners and I can try to meet him halfway. He earns good money and we already moved in together 2 years into our relationship and did long distance when he was in his master's program. My job is remote, so I moved into his hometown 3 hours away from my OG. I have been seeing all my friends and cousins get married and it's hard to feel happy on such a joyous occasion when your ring finger feels so empty and everyone starts asking you. Lately, my partner has been thriving in work and enjoying his new life, and it's almost as if he forgot about our personal goals. When I initiated the discussion again, I could sense that he was dragging his feet. He didn't have enough money for a ring or savings for a wedding when he would be very well buying a motorbike he always wanted since he was a kid. He said our life is good as is. Why do we need a stamp of validation from the world? You are on your own health insurance, so what's the point? All of this just left me heartbroken. Why don't I deserve to be his wife, after being his girlfriend for so long? Does he not love me enough to make a romantic gesture for me, choosing me over his useless bike? I talked to my sister who got engaged 2 years into her relationship, and her approach was simple yet effective. She told me to withdraw all wife privileges from him until I get that title. That he has to earn me, not cleaning and cooking for him, moving out, not pay for his expenses sometimes, stuff like that. My boyfriend got mad because I didn't renew our lease with him, and told me that's a very poor way of handling things and we need this constant in our life to preserve that intimacy, telling me that's the kind of precedent I am setting up for our eventual marriage. I replied, I've been a wife for you without the title. I gave myself completely to you, only to expect you to do this one thing for me. I've waited long enough. I don't really believe in ultimatums, so I'm not going to force your hand. I'm simply acting as your girlfriend now. If you really want our relationship to go back to how it was, you better give me that upgrade. What's the correct way of handling this?
Am I the arsehole for telling my brother that his pregnancy announcement is trashy? Story time! So my family has this gifting program where if you sign up, you have to spend £21 on whoever you get in the little system. It's like a whole thing. There's a Google Doc with all of people's sizes, any snacks they like, any allergies, that type of thing. We do this every year, and when the kids go to sleep, we all do the gifting. My brother Steve and his girlfriend Amy both signed up to be on this list. And on this specific day, they had asked to go last because they had something that they would like to open all together. Literally everybody followed the assignments on the list. Steve and Amy spent approximately £5 per person. So everybody opened their gifts, it was going really, really well, and then it came to Amy and Steve's turn. We all opened the gift to find a picture frame with a sonogram in it. And this picture frame was maximum £2, like it was not expensive at all. And then on the back of the picture frame, there was a note that says £35 has been donated to our baby when it arrives. And I'm not gonna lie, the photo frame wasn't even nice. It was so tacky, and it had these like puffy like letters on the front that says Baby Bella 2024. So they had essentially not gotten us a gift but had donated money to their own baby in our name. We obviously said congratulations and then spoke about the baby for a little bit. So then my dad was like, should we get this exchange all finished then? It started to get really, really late at this point and he needed to get home because he'd got work the next day. So he turned to Amy and was like, do you want to go get the rest of your presents? And that was when Steve turned around and was like, that was the gift. And at that point, the vibe dropped. Steve got up and went to the toilet and my dad went after him. We all did that awkward thing where we just sat in silence and we could hear them having this raging argument in the hallway. And at that point, Steve just stormed out. My dad was seething. He was so angry. I've actually never seen him that angry before. He was like, this is absolute bullshit. Everyone can take their gifts back that they got Steve and Amy because I'm not having this. He was like, they knew exactly what they were doing this whole time. And a few people actually did take their gifts back and then they all left. But most of us just sat there until everything calmed down and then we went home. So a few days go by and I hear nothing from Steve or Amy. And then out of nowhere, Steve turns up at my house with a gift. And he even apologized. Everything was literally fine until I asked how Amy was. And he was like, well, she's been crying for the past 2 days, so I'll let you guess that one. He then said, and pass a message on to Dad to say thank you for ruining our surprise. He then went on to ask if I liked the gift. I was like, nope. And he asked why, and I decided that I was just going to tell him the truth. I said that everybody else got you a real gift that they spent money on. I made it very clear that although it was a lovely gesture, that isn't the point of the gift exchange. I told him the way you did it felt cheap and tacky. And at that point, he walked away from me and called me an asshole. So what do you think? Am I wrong here?
You know how every family has like a go-to story that they just tell? It's like the canon event for comedy in their lives. I just found out what mine's gonna be. My parents had a few. They told us, one of them being that my dad was supposed to take my mom to prom but then never showed up. So my mom called my grandmother and said, where's your son? And she said, Christine, Louis is in jail. Now every once in a while we just go, Louis is in jail, and we all have a good laugh. Still don't know why that guy was in jail. Anyway, this one's mine. This happened like 4 years ago. All you need to know is that me and my brother grew up in a house with my grandmother. So what is still my parents' house, my baba lives in, unless she's at her boyfriend's house. Fascinating lady. She's only 80 years old. She's thriving. So 4 or 5 years ago, my brother and I are moved out to our own apartments, and my brother, I guess, was drinking like near my parents' house. He gets hammered. He goes, you know what, I'm just going to sleep at my parents' house. My baba was supposed to be at her boyfriend's house, but I guess they got in a fight that day. They always fight about stupid shit, and then she comes home and then she goes back the night, whatever. Anyway, so she was home and he didn't know that. Goes to open the front door and we have a chain on our door, and the chain stops the door from opening, and he's like, that's weird, and the alarm's going off. So he reaches his hand through the chain, he turns off the alarm, and he's like, not crossing his mind that clearly someone had to be inside the house to put the chain up in the first place. He's thinking this house is empty and the chain went up by itself. So then he remembers we have a padlock on the basement door, but he doesn't know the code to it. Oddly, my cousin Teddy, who lives down the street, does know the code to it because he used to live in our basement. And calls my cousin. Thankfully, my cousin picks up. He's also wasted. He goes, I don't remember it, but I think if I did it, I would remember it. I'll just come over and do it. So my cousin Teddy and his brother Daniel come over. They all go to the basement door. My cousin Teddy opens it. I guess something was leaning against it. So when they open the door, something crashes down. Either way, they're all hammered. It's like 3 a.m. They don't care. So my brother says, you want to come up to the living room and have a drink? My cousins are like, sure. The 3 of them crack a beer, whatever. While this is happening, my baba has gotten out of bed. She is commando on the ground between the bed and the wall. She calls the police and she goes, someone has broken into my house. She's like, they know my alarm code. They disarmed the alarm. I heard a boom in the basement. They tried to get through the front, whatever. She's telling them all this. And then, you can't say this on the internet, although it is the funniest part, unfortunately, but I'll say the PG version of it. She says, they aren't going to R-word me because I'm old, but I do have some gold. So they're like, okay, lady, didn't ask. Anyway, sent a couple squad cars over. Back downstairs, my cousins and my brother are just chilling. Police break down the front door. And they didn't break down the door, but they broke the chain thing that was attached to the door. And they just rush in. My cousins and brother are just like chilling. They're like, police, what's going on in here? And they're all shitting there. We got a call for a break and entry. My brother's like, I live here. Like, this is my house. A few of the officers go upstairs. They go get my baba, who's like hiding under the bed. She's 80. He goes, the person says he lives here. And my brother goes to the bottom of the stairs and starts screaming up the stairs in Greek, which he doesn't speak. Those like 5 words. And I guess he strings together like, it's me, Jimmy. She's like, oh, Jimmy. La, 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 la. Police are probably like, what losers are in this house? Like, you didn't know each other were here. My brother's telling me this story the next day, and I was like, James, how dumb are you? Like, you didn't realize when you had to borderline break into your own house that someone obviously was in there? And he's like, Sam, I was fucking drunk. I was so scared when the police officer came in. He didn't say that, but he was obviously horrified if he's hammered. My cousins were like, ooh. Anyway, every once in a while we say, I don't think they'll take me because I'm old, but I do have some gold. My kids are just gonna love that one. It's a good one. I'll keep brainstorming. I'll keep brainstorming if there's any more.
Dating in the trenches in the wild. Online. Fun fact, I am a happily married woman and I am 30 years old, but doesn't mean I haven't been through the trenches. And I just want to share my stories because I love the tea and stories too. And for any of those girls out there looking for the love of your life in the trenches, I just want to tell you, you're going to look back at your personal experiences in 10 years and you are going to laugh with the love of your life. Just hang in there, okay? So I had been seeing and talking to this guy for a while. Like, what do you call it? Dating? What do you call dating? I don't even know anymore, okay? I'm getting so old. But we were talking. That's what I used to call it. Talking, seeing each other, whatever. We weren't exclusive, though. He invites me on a little trip out of state. But I'm a working girl. Hardworking girl. You know, I was working 14, 15-hour days, 2 jobs. Like, you can't just ask me at the drop of a dime if I can go out of state. Would I have loved to? Absolutely. But now that I think about it, why did he ask me last minute? Probably because the second, third, or fourth, or fifth option had already backed out. You know, I was probably like the 10th option at this point. He ends up going on his little vacation, and he sends me pictures while he's there, talks to me the whole time, until one day I get this weird picture out of the blue. He sends me a picture of him and another girl together. I'm not playing. No, I'm not. Text he sends me along with a photo. It is him explaining how him and this girl are just having the best time on this vacation he invited me on. And they're really getting along. And he just basically really, really likes her. And she's given herself to him. And that means a lot to him. Honestly, what does that even mean? But baby girl, please, I beg of you, tell me it's not true. Tell me it's not true. Did I cry like a big old baby? Yes, I did. For days. And listen, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking because I would be thinking it too. Oh, you were a stage 5 clinger. That's why he did that. He was trying to get rid of you. He was like pretty much saying like, leave me alone. That's what you think. But that is not the case. I promise you. Have I been a stage 5 clinger before? Oh, I certainly probably have been when I was like 17 years old, but not at this point in my life. But really, this was just a sick individual who wanted to see how bad he could hurt me, how far he could push me and still try to come back. And try to come back, he did. You know, men always try to come back into your life at the most convenient time. I told you I cried for a while, but then eventually I got over it. Like, I didn't try contacting him anymore. And I was starting to like see other people and feel better. And why do they always come back when you're moved on? Make it make sense. It's like, do men have like a little radar? They know, oh, she's doing good now. Got to skirt back in there. Got to keep her on the line. She's getting too far out there. In my heart, I was like, oh, he's figured out I'm the one, you know, he's just realized like Larissa's the one, you know? And then in my head, I'm like, but is he playing you? But then I was like conflicted because, you know, I was trying to move on. And then I felt bad for this other girl who, remember, had given herself to him. I still don't know what that means. Okay, I mean, I do know what it means, but I don't want it to mean what I think it means. Like, you know what I mean? And if it does mean what I do think it means, Baby girl, I am praying for you. Hear me out. At this point, my self-esteem is in the garbage, okay? My bar is set so low. The bar does not exist, okay? Non-existent at this point. I just think love's supposed to hurt, and he's realized that I am his true love. I am the one, okay? Saying that out loud now really makes me realize how delulu I was. So I know you're all wondering, well, did you let the man come back? Surely not. Like, my gosh, like, block him, move on. Babe, hear me out, okay? Like, I have no self-esteem. I told you, she's in the garbage, okay? Listen, I was a starving girl, for male attention and validation. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're a betting person, the odds are very high. Very high indeed.